A machine can define an era not just by the way it looks or the sound it makes, but by the emotions it stirs the moment it rolls into view. Some vehicles carry with them the energy of freedom, the promise of speed, and the quiet pride of mechanical mastery. Imagine an engine note that doesn't just echo down a highway, but resonates in the bones of everyone who hears it. Imagine a silhouette that says more about individuality and rebellion than any marketing campaign could. These machines aren't just transportation, they become cultural lightning rods, symbols of what people dream to be when the day's work is over. They become shorthand for a generation's hunger for identity, their desire to leave a mark on the road and in memory. And when you peel back the layers, what you find isn't just metal and rubber, it's a story of innovation, of choices made in boardrooms and garages, of risks taken on proving grounds and backroads alike. Today we dig into one of those machines that changed not only how people rode, but how they thought about riding. Like and subscribe, and drop a comment on which machine you want us to cover next. The Harley-Davidson Panhead chopper, born from the Panhead engine introduced in 1948, represented more than just a mechanical update. It was a response to a post-war America that was restless, searching, and eager to break away from conformity. When the Panhead engine arrived, it replaced the knucklehead with key advances like aluminum heads and improved oiling. But the deeper story wasn't just about engineering. It was about accessibility and reliability at a moment when returning veterans and young riders craved machines that could handle endless miles of open road. The Panhead chopper became the vehicle for self-expression, a canvas on which individuality could be carved in steel and chrome. Riders weren't just satisfied with factory-issued shapes. They began to strip down frames, cut away excess weight, and craft silhouettes that looked fast even while standing still. The decisions that led to this evolution weren't made only in Harley's design offices, but in garages, alleys, and sheds across the country, where young Americans looked at the Panhead and saw not an endpoint, but a beginning. Culture shaped these choices. The rise of suburban life left many searching for a more visceral outlet, and motorcycles became a way to escape that carefully planned grid of post-war neighborhoods. The Panhead's reliability meant it could take on the punishment of stripped-down experimentation, so when riders chopped and welded, they could trust the engine wouldn't fail them. But the appeal went beyond practicality. There was a defiance in riding a machine that didn't look like anything sold off the showroom floor. This was rebellion rendered in metal, and the Panhead chopper was the most potent symbol of it. Owners found themselves part of a new, unspoken community, where every modification was a signature, and every mile traveled felt like a declaration of independence. The Panhead chopper carried weight because it wasn't exclusive. It was built from a machine that thousands could buy, and yet no two customized bikes looked the same. That paradox, common origin, unique expression, drove the movement forward. The design intent at Harley-Davidson had been to modernize and stabilize the lineup, but in doing so, they inadvertently handed riders the perfect platform to reinvent what motorcycling could mean. Every curve of the tank, every stretch of the frame, every glint of chrome on the Panhead chopper told a story about a rider unwilling to blend into the crowd. And as the 1950s gave way to the 1960s, this spirit would collide with broader cultural currents, setting the stage for a transformation that went far beyond motorcycles. What started as mechanical refinement turned into cultural ignition, and the next chapter reveals just how fiercely the Panhead chopper captured imaginations and challenged rivals who never saw it coming. The Harley-Davidson Panhead chopper entered the 1950s as more than a motorcycle. It became a flashpoint in the conversation about what freedom and identity meant in post-war America. On paper, the Panhead was simply Harley's updated big twin, but in garages across the country, it transformed into something else entirely, a rolling manifesto against sameness. Riders tore off fenders, extended front forks, and reimagined ergonomics, and while this creativity electrified some, it unsettled others. Rival manufacturers tried to match the Panhead's cultural pull with cleaner, factory-ready designs, but they couldn't replicate the grassroots fire that came from ordinary builders putting their own mark on the machine. Even law enforcement and politicians noticed, choppers drew attention not only for their appearance, but for the crowds they attracted, creating a reputation that balanced admiration with suspicion. Yet that tension only fed the mystique. Films and magazines amplified the image of the Panhead chopper, cementing its role as the visual shorthand for rebellion on two wheels. At the same time, aftermarket parts suppliers flourished, knowing riders wanted more than Harley offered. Small shops provided custom tanks, longer forks, and wild paint, making the Panhead chopper a bridge between industrial production and personal artistry. Within racing and outlaw clubs alike, the Panhead engine proved durable, holding up under stresses that rivals' machines often failed to endure. In the US market, that toughness became part of the legend. This was the machine you could ride hard, customize endlessly, and still rely on. The competition never fully caught up, because the appeal wasn't horsepower numbers or factory brochures. It was the feeling of riding something no one else had. That democratization of identity made the Panhead chopper an icon in its own right, and by the mid-1960s, it was no longer just a modified bike. It was the face of a movement. And as that movement spread from coast to coast, the Panhead chopper became the standard by which other customs were judged, forcing everyone in the motorcycle world to confront a simple truth. Individuality could no longer be dismissed as a fringe idea, because it had become the heartbeat of American motorcycling. The stage was set for the Panhead's legacy to expand far beyond its production years, carrying the custom culture forward into a new era of influence and myth-making. The Harley-Davidson Panhead chopper, by the time the 1960s rolled into the 1970s, had already transcended its mechanical roots to become a cultural archetype, one of the few motorcycles whose silhouette alone could tell a story. The Panhead engine itself was officially retired in 1965, replaced by newer designs, but its presence in custom garages never faded. Builders clung to it not out of nostalgia alone, but because it had proven itself as the most adaptable canvas for individuality. Its mechanical simplicity allowed endless experimentation, and its reputation carried a weight that no successor could fully match. When films like Easy Rider showcased the chopper lifestyle, it was the Panhead chopper that gave those frames authenticity. The machine looked and felt like freedom in its purest form. As the years passed, the bike's legacy wasn't just tied to rebellion, but to craft, to the artistry of hand-shaped tanks, painstaking chrome work, and frames that stretched into unique, one-off designs. Modern enthusiasts still seek out Panhead choppers, not because they outperform contemporary machines, but because they embody a raw connection to an era when the motorcycle became more than transport, it became identity. The aftermarket today still supports the Panhead, with reproduction parts, custom frames, and communities dedicated to preserving and riding these legends. But ownership has shifted. What once was a cheap, stripped-down ride for the restless youth has now become a collectible, cherished by builders and collectors who understand that every weld and every modification carries a piece of cultural history. The Panhead chopper's lasting blueprint is clear. Innovation didn't just come from the factory, it came from the streets, and the movement it inspired remains the foundation of custom motorcycle culture. And as today's riders chase individuality with new tools, from CNC machining to 3D printing, they are still following the path laid down decades ago by the Panhead chopper. That continuity is the final proof that while engines may come and go, only a few ever become immortal symbols, and the Panhead chopper is one of them. The Harley-Davidson Panhead chopper tells a story that stretches far beyond its production years. It shows how a machine can embody both mechanical excellence and cultural transformation. For US viewers today, the most important takeaway is that this motorcycle isn't just a relic. It remains one of the clearest examples of how rider-driven creativity can shape an entire industry. When considering ownership, availability, and pricing play a big role, genuine Panhead choppers are rare, with original examples commanding premium values, often well into collector territory. Reproduction parts and custom builds are more accessible, but authenticity drives price. Buyers who want a true period-built machine must prepare for high costs and diligent hunting. Reliability reflects the era. While the Panhead engine was durable for its time, modern owners must accept that upkeep is constant. Parts require specialized sourcing, and riding one means living with quirks that come from mid-century engineering. Still, for those willing to embrace that reality, the reward is unmatched, a direct connection to the roots of American custom culture. Enthusiasts see the Panhead chopper not just as a motorcycle, but as a living artifact, proof of a moment when riders rewrote the rules of design and identity with their own hands. The legacy of this machine explains why even today, at bike shows or vintage rallies, a Panhead chopper can draw a crowd faster than almost anything else on two wheels. Its blueprint, simplicity, adaptability, and authenticity, still resonates with builders and riders who crave individuality over conformity. If you're searching for a machine that bridges history and passion, the Panhead chopper remains one of the most compelling choices available. In the end, this isn't just about horsepower or chrome, it's about the reminder that freedom on the road is as much about what you build as what you ride. And that truth ensures the Panhead chopper will never fade into silence.